Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. Emily stood in the doorway like she was holding a live grenade, fingers trembling, lips pressed together as if the truth was trying to escape on its own. The evening light behind her flickered through the blinds, cutting her face into sharp strips of shadow. She swallowed hard, once, twice, then whispered the sentence that cracked everything open in one clean strike. "Daniel, I'm in love with someone else." Her voice wasn't shaking with guilt. It was shaking with relief, like she finally dropped a weight she'd been carrying for miles. I stared at her for a moment, feeling the words settle into place inside my chest, and instead of breaking open or exploding or even asking who he was, I just let out a slow breath and said, "Perfect." Her head snapped up. That wasn't the reaction she had rehearsed for. Her brows pulled together just slightly, not confusion exactly, but something close to fear. She probably expected a meltdown, a slammed door, some pleading, or at least a crack in my voice. Instead, the room stayed eerily still, the kind of stillness before a storm that only animals can sense. She blinked quickly, searching my face for something human, something emotional. But there was nothing, just a man who had already died inside months ago. The crazy thing is, if you looked at our marriage from the outside, you'd think we had it set. 7 years together. A home we decorated with arguments and laughter in equal measure. A kitchen where we always cooked too much pasta. A couch that still held the imprint of the nights we spent falling asleep to bad movies. But somewhere along the line, something shifted. She grew quieter. Late-night work calls. Weekends that suddenly required solo recharge time. A smile that wasn't meant for me lingering on her phone screen before she tilted it away. Everyone loves to pretend they'd magically notice infidelity the moment it starts. But real betrayal doesn't kick the door open. It creeps in, softly, patiently, like a draft under the door. You feel a chill, but convince yourself the window's just open. I did the same, making excuses for her disappearing acts, for the half-finished story she told about her day, for the way she went to bed facing the wall, instead of curling into me. I ignored the warning signs every married person is trained to catch, because acknowledging them would mean acknowledging the quiet terror that maybe I wasn't enough for her anymore. But then it became impossible to dismiss. A message preview flashing too quickly. Her reflection smiling at her phone in the microwave door. A charged silence that only exists when a lie is running loose in the room. The last month had been a masterclass in pretending. Her pretending she still loved me pretending I didn't notice the cracks widening. I knew something was coming. I just didn't know what shape the collapse would take. So when she finally stood there confessing, voice threaded with strange kind of hope, my calm wasn't a sign of a man who didn't care. It was a sign of a man who had been waiting. Her confession didn't break me. It confirmed me. Every suspicion, every unspoken thought, every sleepless night. Perfect. I repeated inside my head, because now I didn't have to doubt myself anymore. Emily stepped closer, slow and uncertain, like I might suddenly unravel. "Did you hear what I said?" she asked. The confusion in her voice was almost insulting. She wanted chaos. She wanted a scene. She wanted her guilt wiped clean by my rage. Instead, I nodded once and walked past her into the kitchen, letting the fridge door cool my face for a moment. Behind me, she hovered like a ghost, unsure if it should stay in a room or disappear. Her footsteps shifted, then stopped, then shifted again. She didn't know what to do with my calm, and that made her uneasy. What she didn't know was that the calm wasn't new. It had been there for weeks, ever since I started quietly putting the pieces together. The bank statements that didn't add up, the missing evenings she couldn't explain without tripping over her own words, the sudden interest in weekend retreats she had never cared about before. I had been building a quiet archive of truth, one she didn't know existed. And then, 3 days ago, I'd found the thing that changed everything. The thing that told me this wasn't about love. It was about something else. Something calculated. I looked back at Emily, her arms wrapped around herself. She didn't know what I knew. She didn't know what her confession had just unlocked. And she definitely didn't know what perfect truly meant. Not yet. Emily stood frozen in the hallway, searching my face for even a flicker of the reaction she expected. But all she found was distance. Not coldness, just the kind of clarity that comes when a person has already stepped out of the emotional grip of someone else's choices. I walked past her and sat at the dining table, the same place where we once shared midnight cereal and argued about which city we want to retire in. Now it felt like neutral ground for two strangers negotiating a silent war. She finally followed, sitting across from me like she was afraid the chair might shatter beneath her. "Daniel, say something," she whispered. I looked at her for a long moment. "I already did," I replied. "And you didn't like it." She flinched because the truth was too simple. She hadn't wanted honesty. She had wanted outrage. She had wanted to paint me as the unhinged, unreasonable husband so she could walk away with the sympathy she had already rehearsed. But my calm ruined the script she had prepared. And the more she realized that, the more anxious she became. Her legs started bouncing, her fingers twisting into each other, her breathing shallow. This wasn't guilt. This was panic. Because she didn't know what I knew. 3 nights ago, while she showered after one of her mysterious late work meetings, I had checked her email, something I'd never done in 7 years. But something inside me whispered to look, not for proof of cheating. I already felt that. I was looking for motive, and I found it. A chain of messages between her and a real estate agent discussing the sale of the cabin property I didn't even know she had bought, in her name only. No mention of me, despite the fact she'd used money withdrawn from our joint account, money I assumed she was saving for home renovations. And the final message in that email thread, the one that snapped something in me, a forwarded note from a family lawyer, instructions about post-separation financial leverage. She wasn't planning to leave me. She was planning to gut me. So when she confessed today, claiming this was about love, it almost felt like a joke. A bad one. She leaned forward, her voice small. "Daniel, aren't you angry?" I tilted my head. "About what? The affair? Or the part where you tried to sell property, using our money, while preparing to leave me with nothing?" Her mouth fell open. All the color drained from her face. How did, Daniel, that wasn't. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said softly. "And you know it." Her breathing hitched, shallow and rapid, and her eyes darted around the room like she was looking for an exit. But this wasn't a trap I set today. She built it herself, brick by brick, lie by lie. I just stepped out of it. She pressed her palms against the table. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "You planned a financial ambush," I said. "Let's not pretend this is romance." Her eyes shimmered then, not because she realized she hurt me, but because she realized her plan had failed. It was written across her face, the way her jaw tightened, the way she inhaled sharply like a diver running out of air. I didn't hate her in that moment. I didn't even resent her. I just felt something close to exhaustion, like I had been running an emotional marathon without realizing it. "So what now?" she asked. The question hung in the air like a swinging blade. I leaned back, hands folded. "Now, we handle this like adults. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow." She let out a strangled sound. Not quite a sob, more of a gasp. "Daniel, please, you don't understand. It was supposed to be easier this way. Clean. You weren't supposed to find anything yet." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You built an exit plan for one person. Yourself." She reached out, fingertips trembling. "Daniel, I made a mistake." "No," I answered. "You made a choice." The room fell silent, thick enough that even the refrigerator hum seemed to vanish. Emily's shoulders sagged, her gaze falling to the table where our hands used to meet after long days. Now there was nothing between us but truth. "I didn't want it to end like this," she whispered. "It ended months ago," I replied. "You're just now admitting it." She shut her eyes, her breath uneven, and in that moment, I realized something unexpected. The pain I thought would destroy me wasn't there. Instead, there was a strange sense of freedom, like stepping out of a burning building and realizing you can finally breathe. As I stood to leave the table, Emily's voice followed me, fragile and barely audible. What does perfect mean now? I paused in the doorway. It means, I said, your confession gave me the clean break I needed. No lies left. No questions. Just the truth, finally. And I walked away.